Hi guys, we are almost there. We've got a couple of seconds before we are going to start up. I'm going to start up right at 1 o'clock. If you don't know me, I am Dr. Angie, and we are going to be talking about today, why is my child afraid of the silliest things like butterflies? And we're going to be doing that in under 10 minutes. So we are live, we are good, so welcome. Today is a little bit different. I am actually in the middle of doing a workshop this week, so had everyone go out on a lunch, so we're going to do this in probably well under 10 minutes this time. So what we're talking about this week is I always want to give people some tips and some tools on how to understand their kiddos and then how to deal with them. Because if we understand the reasoning and logic behind something, then we can help to create change for somebody, right? So if somebody is having a problem and we can correct that at the source, then we can help them stop having that problem. So this week we're talking about, why is my child afraid of the silliest things like butterflies? I'm going to do that in under 10 minutes. Now, YouTube Live has changed things a little bit. This might be backwards for you guys. I'm not sure. I'll find out once I look at the replay, but bear with me as we go through some technical changes as they change and update YouTube Live. So I always like to talk about something, talk about the what something is, the why something is, and then how can we help with that something. So let's talk about what fear is by definition. So fear by definition is an unpleasant or sometimes very strong feeling or emotion that is caused by the expectation or the awareness of danger. Right? So expectation or awareness of danger. Awareness of danger is simple. I'm fearful if there's a lion in the room because the danger is imminent, it's right there. If my car brakes stop, I'm aware of the current danger. But now this idea of an expectation of danger. So an expectation of danger is something that we are thinking could possibly happen, which puts us in this state of fear. So now if fear is a feeling or an emotion, by definition, it doesn't have to be rational. It just is, because we have different feelings and emotions about different things that other people don't experience the same way we do, because that feeling is generated from within self, just like fear is. Now, fear has the ability to stop us from doing things in the simple ways. Speaking in front of live audiences is the #1 fear. There's the fear of doing YouTube Live and having technical difficulties. Yeah, I've been there, done that. There is fear of large bodies of water. There's fear of heights, all these types of things, right? If something is so fearful and creates such a strong emotional response in us that it impacts our lives and stops us from doing things, then we call that a phobia. Like the fear of heights, or the fear of spiders, or the fear of crossing bridges, or the fear of getting some type of infection. It will stop us from moving forward. The most important thing to understand, though, about this is that because it is a feeling or emotion, it is generated from self. So what I'd like you to understand is that when we talk about feelings, people experience things differently. So I don't have a fear of heights, but I have individuals in my family that are fearful of heights. So if that's the case, if one person can be standing on top of a tall building and not feel fear, and another person stands on top of a tall building and does feel fear, then it's not the event. It is not the being on top of a tall building that is creating the fear. That fear is being generated from within self. Now, if it is a fear that we have, and all of us have these as human beings, a fear that something is going to happen in our physical world, in our physical universe, such as I have a fear of heights because I'm afraid of falling. So the fear is secondary to a real world, rational cause and effect relationship. So to be afraid of snakes because you're scared to get bit and get venom and be ill. Afraid of spiders for the same reason. A fear of the dark because instinctively we know things can happen in the dark and we don't have one of our main senses to be able to assess how to manage those situations. So fear, it's very easy to understand someone being fearful of those kind of things, being fearful that someone is, if you don't keep your kids close to you, someone's going to take your kids, because these are real life things that happen, cause and effect in the real world. Yeah. But what if our kiddos are afraid of butterflies? Or they're afraid of being in a swimming pool, right? Where does that come from? So if we look at what's going on, we are having fear and we are having an expectation of a danger happening, is because we projected out, what would that feel like? Oh my gosh, if someone took my kids, or if I fell off of this building, or if I got bit by a rattlesnake. And we're using that cause and effect, and we're getting the feeling of what would happen if that expectation were to realize, right? But if that means that the fear comes from our imagination, going into our imagination and thinking about what could happen, what if I live in my imagination? What if my imaginary world is so robust that I've created a whole world there, right? And that's where I am a lot of the time. When I create a world in my imagination, the cause and effect relationships there are based on what I decide the cause and effect relationships are. For example, just simply, I use this example a lot. In my thought world, I could go to Costco and eat a whole cheese pizza, and it would taste really, really good, and that would just be wonderful, and I'd feel great. If I try and do that, though, in my physical world, I'm going to feel sick. So the cause and effect relationships that are determined by physical world boundaries and physics don't apply to our thought world. So if I have this vast imagination in my thought world, cause and effect is completely different. So in my thought world, it may not be that if I'm on top of a tall building, I get fearful because I fear of falling. What if I have the fear of being zapped into another universe? What if I have the fear of when I open my door, it's not going to be my front porch, it's going to be a canyon? What if I have a fear that my parents, if I can't see them, if they're not in front of me, they're just going to dematerialize? What if I have a fear from watching so many cartoons that if I see a puddle of water, I could actually step in the water and go down into nothingness? So I can have fears based on the cause and effect relationships I have developed within my imaginary world. And when we look at the individuals who have the biggest imaginations in our lives, who are they? There are kiddos with dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, and autism. And many of them don't have a good grasp on the cause and effect and how that occurs in the real physical world. So they can have fears that seem completely irrational to us, but are completely rational to them. Also, they may not even have the effect in mind. They just know that when they are in a pool, they are scared. I had one little boy I work with, who's on Autism Spectrum, and he was deathly afraid of being in a pool because he thought there were sharks in a pool. So now I couldn't tell him enough that there's not sharks in the pool, because in his imaginary world, which he experienced as reality, that was a plausible possibility for him. So if that's the issue, if that's what's going on, if it's our kind of imagination is run amok, and that puts us in states of fear and anxiety and nervousness in different situations, what can we do? So what's the how? We talk about the what it is, talk about the why, not about the how. So what all I can tell you is that when we can perceive what's really going on in our world as it's actually occurring, so we are seeing and hearing what's really going on, not what we think is going on, what we conceive in our thought world, we begin to appreciate real world cause and effect, and we call that orientation. So what I would recommend is to read the book by Ronald Davis called The Gift of Learning, or the book Autism and the Seeds of Change. Either one of those are going to give you some understanding of orientation and give you some tools, especially the gift of learning, on how to help your kiddos begin to perceive what's actually going on. And as they begin to perceive what's actually going on, they begin to open the door enough times to realize every time I open the door, it's just the front porch. And the more times that happens, the less fearful they'll be. The little boy I talked about, once he got orientation, and we also began to give him some firm understanding and mastery of some life concepts like cause and effect and consequence. One of the reports I got back was that he had gone into a public pool. So they were able to go on vacation and go into a pool, and now he loves and enjoys swimming. And Sarah, you know who I'm talking about, yeah? So that's something that we can do. Another thing we can do is we can give them some self-regulatory tools that will help with their internal energy level and help relieve themselves of any tension at a given moment. And that's some more information that you can find in Ron's books, The Gift of Learning, as well as Autism and the Seeds of Change. So with the orientation and the perceiving correctly, and then enough life experiences to see that the cause and effect in the real world is not that when they can't see mom and dad, they demineralize, mom and dad show back up, to begin to bring that into self, into their identity, and begin the fears will begin to go. Now that's just the short of it. There's a lot more. What I would recommend is finding a Davis facilitator and talking with them on the phone or via email and getting some more ideas. So I hope that helps. I love you guys. Till next time, keep it simple, and we'll see you in a month.